Buenas noches a todos. A nombre de la Universidad Iberoamericana y del Ayuntamiento del Distrito Nacional y de IGMA, les damos la bienvenida a esta noche de reflexión y de aprendizaje también sobre urbanismo y sobre una matiz del urbanismo muy importante que orbita alrededor del bienestar personal de los seres humanos dentro de la ciudad. Particularmente el urbanismo que se preocupa de la caminabilidad, del nivel de caminabilidad que debe tener una ciudad para los individuos que la utilizan. Pero ¿en qué clase de ciudad estamos ahora mismo? Y me interesaba traerles a ustedes algunas reflexiones de gente muy especial. Yo no sé si ustedes saben que 4 de los 5 historiadores más importantes de las Indias durante el periodo entre 1500 y 1530 vivieron aquí en Santo Domingo, obviamente en la parte colonial. Uno de ellos era Alejandro Geraldini, el otro era Gonzalo Fernández de Oviedo y Padre Las Casas. Geraldini, en su itinerario de las regiones subequinocciales, que fue uno de los libros que escribió en latín algo que voy a traducir al español. Yo no sé el latín, obviamente, está traducido al español y se los comparto. En 1520 escribió esto Alejandro Geraldini. Quedé admirado de ver tan ínclita ciudad fundada hace el breve tiempo de 25 años, porque sus edificios son altos y hermosos como los de Italia. Su puerto capaz de contener todos los navíos de Europa, está un poco exagerado, pero sus mismas calles anchas y rectas, que con ellas no sufren comparación las calles de Florencia. Por esto, si mi pueblo diera la espalda a las facciones que desgraciadamente en él se han formado, me atrevería a afirmar claramente que a la vuelta de pocos años llegaría a ser cabeza y señora esta ciudad de todas las demás ciudades del Nuevo Mundo. ¿Qué diré sino que sus nobles e ilustres caballeros, siempre vestidos de púrpura de seda, con remacaciones de oro, son innúmeros? ¿Qué de sus jurisconsultos que dejaron su patria en Europa y con sus óptimas leyes y sus integuérrimas costumbres, su santísima enseñanza han hecho insigne esta ciudad? ¿Qué de los capitanes de naos? ¿Qué de sus soldados? Porque no hay duda, sino que es cosa de admirar, como cada día descubren ellos nuevas gentes, nuevos pueblos, nuevas naciones, nuevos reinos y estrellas no conocidas, sino en cielos nuevos. Oviedo escribió en su Historia General y Natural de las Indias, otra frase que les quiero compartir sobre la ciudad, en 1524. De Santo Domingo digo que en cuanto a los edificios, ningún pueblo de España, aunque sea Barcelona, no le hace ventaja. El asiento mucho mejor, porque las calles son tanto más llanas y mucho más anchas y sin comparación mucho más derechas. Porque fue fundada en nuestros tiempos, fue trazada con regla y compás, con el cual tiene muchas ventajas a todas las poblaciones que he visto. Padre Las Casas en 1527 dice en su apologética Historia de las Indias: tiene la comarca de esta ciudad los mejores materiales para edificios que se puedan hallar en alguna parte, así de cantería como de piedra para cal, y la tierra para tapias, y ladrillo, y teja, y barriales. Nuestra ciudad colonial fue un modelo de emplazamiento colonial para copiarse a lo largo del proceso de conquista de todo el continente, y eso lo sabemos ya. 50 años después, solo 50 años después de su fundación, los colonizadores encontraron plata y oro en lo que hoy es México y Perú, y luego experimentamos un problema demográfico y socioeconómico de crisis, de escasez, de falta de medios de producción locales, que nos sumergieron en un periodo de decrecimiento y de recesión de varios siglos. Yo no sé si ustedes lo sabían. Y de pronto, a la vuelta del siglo pasado, comenzando procesos macroeconómicos que trajeron nuevas inversiones al país, produjeron una expansión demográfica, y la ciudad salió de los muros y se comenzó a ensanchar hacia el oeste y noroeste. Y de pronto, por una sucesión de eventos, hemos heredado el contexto que tenemos ahora mismo. Y ¿quién no desearía que en 20 años salga alguien, un famoso historiador, un personaje local, a hablar muy bien de la ciudad que podemos lograr a partir de ahora. Hemos heredado una ciudad con ciertas contradicciones, pero todas ellas comprendiendo desafíos que todos podemos abordar. Así que con ese preámbulo quiero presentar a la arquitecta Thien Chang y la arquitecta Anna Martin, que tan amablemente han venido aquí a agotar un proceso de 4 días de exploración de la ciudad, de empaparse del contexto de la ciudad, para de pronto tener alguna valoración con la que puedan ellos enriquecer nuestra perspectiva de la ciudad. Y para ello, para ese preámbulo, quiero invitar a la arquitecta Melissa Vargas, no sin antes reiterar que esto ha sido posible gracias a IGMA. Mónica, ¿tú puedes refrescarme el acrónimo que significa literalmente de IGMA? Sí. Sí, bueno, la traducción correcta de IGMA es Asociación de Condados y Ciudades de Estados Unidos, y ellos nos han venido acompañando el último año, asesorando el proceso de planificación que está llevando ahora a cabo el Distrito Nacional, que tiene ahora mismo y nos llena de alegría y de esperanza ver cómo se están cuajando los planes creadores de valor probablemente más importantes del país en el mediano plazo. En ese marco y con un fuerte aplauso, yo quiero pedirle a la señora Thien Chang y a la arquitecta también Anna Martin que nos acompañen aquí mientras Melissa las introduce. Así que un aplauso.
Buenas noches. Anna Martin es ingeniera de transporte del Departamento de Transporte de la ciudad de Austin. Luego de crecer en Michigan, se mudó a Texas y ha desarrollado su carrera en Austin. En su trabajo es responsable de la movilidad y la seguridad en las calles para todas las modalidades de desplazamiento, vehículo, peatón, bicicleta, etc. Ana es una apasionada de su comunidad y de su rol en hacer las calles más amigables para todos. Cuando no está trabajando, pasa tiempo con su esposo y sus 2 hijas. Thien Chan es la gerente del programa TDM en el Departamento de Transporte de la ciudad de Austin. Como encargada, hace esfuerzos para desarrollar el manejo de demanda de transporte, políticas, planificación y programación. Es otra apasionada del transporte. Es presidente del Centro de Manejo de Demanda de Transporte, una organización sin fines de lucro, y es directora del Comité de Investigación del mismo. En los fines de semana, monta bicicleta en la ciudad o juega Ultimate Frisbee en el parque. Bueno, welcome. Gracias.
Hola. Mi español is muy mal, so I will speak tonight in English. Thank you so much for having us here tonight and this week. Our hosts from the ADN have been amazing, and I want to thank them for showing us around your beautiful city, and it's a pleasure to be here tonight to tell you what we're doing in the city of Austin. So I'm going to focus on low-cost, high-impact projects that have made a big difference in the way that we safely travel around the city of Austin. So surprisingly, I've noticed a lot of similarities between Santo Domingo and Austin. Santo Domingo is growing very, very fast. Austin's been called the fastest growing city in America. We also rank usually in the top 5 in traffic congestion, just shortly behind New York City and San Francisco. Similar also to your city here, downtown Austin is the employment destination. We have more companies in downtown Austin than any other city in the state, which makes traffic in the morning and in the evening very, very hard to get in and out. Can take sometimes upwards of an hour to 2 hours if there's a traffic crash. So We need to be more resilient and more adaptable given the influx of growth to our city. And our community, like your community, our community is sick and tired of sitting in traffic. Based on a survey, 88% of our community strongly agreed that the city's future should include reduced traffic congestion. So pretty much a consensus, a mission that we can all get behind. And so our strategy in Austin really is from top to bottom, from large regional projects down to small neighborhood scale projects. Tonight I'm really gonna just focus on one area. We're doing a lot, but tonight I'm gonna focus on quick build, biking, walking, and transit projects. And just a quick survey. We wanted to know, how are people willing to travel? You can see by this chart, the shorter the trip, between a block and a quarter mile, people are really willing to walk. People are willing to ride their bike up to 2 miles, and after that, they don't want to be walking or biking. They most likely want to be in their car. Most people in Austin drive alone. The longer the trip, the willingness to ride the bus goes up slightly, but the bus isn't that much faster than the car, to be honest. So we're still working on methods to increase our bus ridership. And so our path forward these last few years has been, let's get those short trips. So the 0 to 3 miles, people are willing to get out of their car. So let's focus on that. Going back, let's make that route comfortable for all ages. We always say from 8 to 80. So from an 8-year-old girl to a 80-year-old woman, we want a trip to be comfortable. We want to prioritize access to schools, to transit stops, and to parks. That's where we started. And we want to use low-cost materials, quick builds, so that we can prove to our community that these can be successful projects, and they'll let us do more. So I'm going to start with some examples. This is Guadalupe Street through the heart of the university in Austin. You can see a lot of traffic congestion. This is a striped bike lane, but you have cars, delivery trucks, buses that all kind of pull over at will. No organization on the street. So using just paint, some plastic posts, we were able to organize the street. So you can see here, our green bike lane has a protected barrier. The parked cars provide a barrier between the bike and the travel lane. Here's another view of the bike lane. You can see the bus stops have moved out into the street so that the bus doesn't have to pull over to the curb. That makes it easier for them to continue on their path and not get stuck in traffic. And then we use these planters and paint to create a pedestrian bulb out, we call. So that's just extra space for the pedestrian, makes their trip across the street shorter and safer. This project for 5 blocks was $650,000, so very attainable on a small budget. This is another main arterial entertainment destination in Austin. This is what it used to look like before, and this reminded me a little bit of some of the streets I saw on my tour around. You have high demand for on-street parking. People would pull over at an angle or however they felt like it. Buses didn't have a place to go. So this was our project, again, just with paint and very low-cost materials. Back-in angle parking for cars, which means that they pull up and back into their spot. And that way, when they're getting ready to leave, all they have to do is pull forward, less conflicts, they can see, not at risk to run over a bike. We have a designated area here for our friends that travel by bike, and then the car lanes. I'll point out here, this is on the top left. Using concrete, we gave an area for pedestrians. Again, that shortens their distance to cross the street. This light here in the upper right-hand corner, we call it a pedestrian hybrid beacon. And that's a separate traffic signal just for pedestrians. They push a button, the light turns red for cars, they have a safe way to cross the street. Again, in the bottom left, a bump out for the bus, so it doesn't have to leave its travel lane, makes a safer, more efficient trip for bus passengers. This is another example in the university, 4-lane roadway. which very quickly with paint and plastic sticks, we made a two-way protected bike lane on one side. We left room for on-street parking and a travel lane as well. At the intersections, we paint green paint to highlight potential conflict areas between bikes and cars, so everyone's more aware of what they might encounter. And this is a standard neighborhood street. Very wide open, encourages fast speeds for drivers. This was another example where we kept two travel lanes in each directions, two-way protected bike lane. Very, very low-cost project. We use paint, some concrete to make these islands, and just have a safer way to travel for all. This is another picture of the project. This is a lead up to an elementary school. So the goal with this project is to get as many kids as we can walking and biking to school, getting them out of their cars, safer and healthier, and has a great impact on our community. It's another example near a school. Like I said, we really tried to prioritize in the first few years these school projects. This was just a striped bike lane. We simply added delineators to give some protection. And this was the ribbon cutting, where we had just hundreds of kids riding their bikes to school. We've also done some funky things with intersections and paint. This is in East Austin in the Central Business District. It's hard to tell from the photo, but a really high pedestrian area, lots of cars. We bumped out these corners, put in some colorful polka dots, and really designated this space for pedestrians. Now cars going through there have to travel much slower. The turns are tighter, so they can't go as fast. A really successful project. We got requests for many more of these. This is a similar example without the polka dots. We did this just with maroon paint, bumped out the intersection, a shorter crossing distance per pedestrians, and just safer for folks getting on and off the bus and crossing the street. We've also done a few of these. We're calling them creative crosswalks. So this crosswalk is near the lake, so that's why an artist designed this to look like water and waves. It really just helps create a sense of place and just brings, again, more awareness to drivers that, hey, you're probably going to see pedestrians crossing the road here, so slow down. So as we've launched into this quick build transformational program, just some issues I want to just point out to ADN staff that might try this themselves. The low-cost materials we found need and require frequent maintenance. So just something for your crews to be aware of. You got to kind of keep an eye on these. It is low cost, so things get knocked down and things have to get replaced. There still does require a funding source. We use our operational and maintenance funds for most of these projects. It's great to have a team in place to do these quick build projects and also check up on them and make changes and see how it's going. We do most of these with community input. So we typically do not go into a neighborhood and make changes to their street without talking to the residents and the neighbors and getting feedback, as well as just informing them of what we're planning to do. So that's a big step in our process as well. And then if the project is successful, which many of these have been, we like to go back in the future and replace those plastic sticks with something more permanent, like planters with trees or bushes, something to help beautify the neighborhood. So that's also in the works for many of these projects. So that's just a quick look at some of the work we're doing. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm not sure if we're going to keep that at the end or not. Sure. Okay. Thank you very much.
Vamos a esperar al final para hacer las preguntas y que pase ahora la arquitecta Thien Chang.
Thanks so much, everyone. It's really exciting to see so many students and faculty and staff here that are interested in what lowly Austin, Texas is doing. So my job at the city is to look at transportation from a slightly different perspective. A lot of great colleagues in our department focus on infrastructure. So it's building the roadways, building the public transit, and even the quick build stuff that Anna was talking about, improving the sidewalks, adding bicycle lanes. So my side is not the infrastructure supply side, but it's the demand side. And what that means is looking at our existing transportation system and saying, what can we do to more efficiently use it and to utilize the space as best we can while we are, say, waiting for the millions of dollars to expand the metro line, or waiting for the millions of dollars to expand our roadways or to expand our public transit system. And so I'm going to talk about a really interesting programmatic solution to that, which we call Smart Trips. So the whole theory of this demand side is that everyone's concerned about congestion, and we know that if 70 people are driving in their cars, they're going to take up the entire roadway, every single lane. But if those same 70 people are biking or in a bus, then all of a sudden we're utilizing the space so much more efficiently. So the goal for our Smart Trips program is that we want to go to the residents. So these are people living in their house. We want to go to their neighborhood and encourage them to explore Austin in a new way. Our metrics are we want 5 to 10% of these people to reduce their use of driving, and hopefully at the same time increase their use of public transit, walking, biking, sharing rides by another 5 to 10%. So I'm going to go through the program a little more. This is a program that we didn't make up. This is a program that's been implemented all over the world and across a lot of really progressive cities in the United States as well. So we're just stealing their idea and hoping Austin likes it. So the first thing we do is we are going into one neighborhood. So this is about 10 to 12,000 households. And how we pick the neighborhood is really important. So one of the theories is we can do everything we can to encourage you to take the bus, to teach you how to bike, to tell you that walking is good for your health, but if there's no good public transit lines, if it's incredibly unsafe to bike or walk, then it's not going to happen, and you've wasted your time. So at a minimum, what we want is at least basic infrastructure in place. It doesn't have to be fantastic, but we want to be able to encourage you onto something that actually exists. So this is one of the ways that we are choosing our neighborhoods. Another important thing is collaboration. So we're collaborating with our public transit agency and the folks within our department that are building new bicycle infrastructure and saying, okay, if you're adding a bike lane in this neighborhood, or maybe you're adding better bus frequency or adding a new bus lane, let's go to that neighborhood so that we can show people that there's new service or that there's new infrastructure in place. So this is, for example, one of the neighborhoods that we've chosen that we're implementing the program in right now. This area shaded in blue is about 13,000 households. So this is very hard to see, but this is a cartoon graphic of how the program actually works. So I'm going to zoom in on what it actually is. So we start off with a person. This guy is stuck in traffic, sitting alone in his car. He gets a letter in the mail that the City of Austin says, come try the Smart Trips program, he gives us data. He fills out a survey and says, this is how I currently drive, and these are the things that I'm interested in. Then we hire ambassadors to actually come to their door and give them lots of great stuff. You see him looking at the bus map. You see him trying the bus. You see him going on a bike ride with one of our ambassadors. And now he's starting to think of all these different trips that he can take. At the end of the program, he takes the survey, and everyone's happy. They're carpooling, they're taking the bus, they're biking. So more specifically, this latest program, we sent something in the mail to every single household. So that's 12,000 households that we send to the mail. We also push the program on social media, and our hope is to get about 10%, 5 to 10% of the neighborhood to participate. The survey that we do is really important because we need data to prove that the program works, or if it doesn't work, to see what is needed to be done to change the program. So this is a picture of the survey and the mailer that we're sending to every single household. We are asking questions such as, how many car trips do you take normally? How many bike trips do you take? Are you comfortable taking the bus or not? Are you comfortable biking or not? And then we're also asking demographic data, because this is really important. We want to know how old you are. We want to know what income levels you are. We want to know if you currently own a car or not. And then the fun part they get to fill out is, what do you want us to send you? So it is everything from public transit maps to bicycle maps to free bike lights to a water bottle, a smartphone charger. So a lot of great incentives just to encourage them to fill out that survey and mail it back to us. And then these are the 3 ambassadors that we've hired. So what they do is they are collecting the toolkits and actually going door to door, knocking on people's door, and delivering the toolkit to the resident. This is really important because an important theory is motivational interviewing, where you can push information at people all you want, but if you don't fundamentally understand why they are driving and why they're scared of biking or why they don't want to walk, you're not going to convince anyone to get out of their car. So this is just one opportunity where our ambassadors are able to speak with these people one-on-one, truly understand what their barriers are, whether they're real barriers or whether they're perceived barriers, and whether there's anything that they can do to help them learn a little bit more about the different options they have. So here's a picture of some of the cool items that we give them. There's a nice canvas tote bag where we stick all the maps in. There's the water bottle. And another nice touch is that we actually create a map that's zoomed in on that neighborhood and draw out the safest biking routes, the most frequent bus routes, and also suggested like neighborhood walking areas. So once the ambassadors have knocked on all the doors, given them all the information, the next thing we do is spend about 3 to 4 months in the neighborhood actually doing really fun programming. So we've given you all this information. Now let's solidify what we've just given you. Let's show you that it's not that hard to take the bus. Let's show you where the safest bike routes are. So we do a bunch of transit adventures. And here's some photos from the program. For example, a little hard to see, but one of our fun transit adventures is everyone met at an intersection in the neighborhood, and they all took the bus to go to the university to watch a basketball game. We host a lot of bike rides. And so, for example, a bike ride we did was, again, everyone met at the neighborhood and they biked to the local farmer's market. Another one we did in December was everyone met up, we decorated our bikes with a bunch of lights, and then biked around the neighborhood looking at Christmas lights. So that was also a lot of fun. We also do a lot of walking tours as well. So again, meet at the neighborhood and just show the residents that your neighborhood's really cool and there's lots of interesting things to see. You just need to get out of your car, breathe some air, and walk. And then we also do a lot of tabling events where we'll go to schools, we'll go to parks, we'll go to churches, and tell people about our program. So program outcomes. Like I said before, it's really important to collect data to justify spending money on programs like this. So we reached out to 12,000 households. For this past program, the participation was a little lower at 4%. We're hoping our next one will be closer to 10%. What was great is that we saw an over 8% reduction in driving trips, and we saw an almost 6% increase in transit trips. A little more qualitatively is people became more aware of their transportation options. So almost 3/4 of the people felt that they learned something from the program. So that doesn't necessarily mean that in those 3 to 4 months, they actually got out of the car and took the bus. But in the long term, they might do that because now they have a better understanding and they're not as scared of these other options. In the program, 1 in 4 people actually tried something totally different, and so that's really exciting as well. We also really focused on digital media. We had a website where you could order your toolkits and see what the different upcoming events were. We had a really active Facebook page. We also had an active Twitter account. I think we had an active Instagram account, but I don't have Instagram, so I didn't check. I'm a little too old for that. So in summary, this is a low-cost program, similar to the low-cost build that Anna was describing. This is a low-cost programmatic project that focuses on demand instead of supply. And I've talked about it in the context of looking at one neighborhood, but these programs can be easily applied to a large employer that's in the downtown district, or to a university, or to just tourists, or to actually complement your public transit expansion. So if the metro is going to expand to a new neighborhood, let's focus on that neighborhood and teach them how to use the metro. And that is all I have, and I think me and Anna would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Bien, si alguno tiene una pregunta, alguna observación, algún comentario allá.
Good evening.
Hello.
Buenas noches. We met yesterday, and it's 2 questions. It's 2 of you. So, what would you suggest us normal commuters after you saw our city? And what would you suggest to our government, or let's not say government, but let's say responsible entities on commuting, etc.? So it's basically 2 questions. Those who organize us, and us, how to organize ourselves, obviously in every commuting terms. Thank you.
We've had some great conversations this week with ADN and the other agencies in the area. I think it's 3 areas that they can focus on. One is you have the bones of a great mass transit system with the metro and the new cable car that's about to start. So keep educating people about that, encouraging them to use it, and then continue expanding the system. Second would be you have some really wide streets today. You're moving a lot of people by bus but the bus is stuck in the same traffic as the cars. So I think a really low-cost solution would be give the buses their own lane, make them faster than the cars. So you encourage people to get out of their car and get in the bus. And then third, a lot of what Tim talked about on the demand side. I think I've heard some stories that when school's in session, traffic is much worse than when schools are out of session. So that kind of points to target the schools and see if you can work on the demand side with the schools and the universities. And then from the community side, I mean, I wouldn't say go out tomorrow and ride your bike in the road. It was great to take a driving tour of the city many times because it really, a lot of aggressive driving, a lot of disorganization of the street space and the road. So as a community and as activists, I would say keep talking to your local officials, and there seems to be a passion and a collective desire to improve traffic now, so I would keep building that. And then we had a lot of bike activists in Austin that really kind of chipped away at the city and at the elected officials and really kept pushing and kept activating and networking together. So I think that's a great place to start also.
Yeah, I'll just add to your other comment about when school's in session and when school is not. I think it is, at least from my perspective, I'd like to look at it by the type of trip. So if it's a university trip, what can we do as a collective university to chip away at it? If it's a commuting trip specifically to downtown, what are the ways we can chip away at that? And on the demand side, that's like the short-term solutions. And those are the things that can be implemented fairly easily and fairly quickly, with still kind of that understanding that we need to be pushing the officials on the local and national level to still invest a lot of money in your infrastructure. The infrastructure needs to be there for my job to work. So it kind of needs to go hand in hand, where you do what you can now as a citizen and as a local official while you're looking for that money or while you're trying to advocate, but still looking to the long term and say, and have that high standard of we need to keep on investing in our public transit. We need to keep on adding the infrastructure that improves pedestrian and bicycle safety. But at the same time, we need to educate. We need to make sure that we are actually trying these options and understanding what the barriers are. I don't want to, as a local planner from my city, tell my residents, you need to bike more if I don't bike the city myself. I don't want to tell my residents, you need to take public transit more if I don't understand that I'm waiting for the bus and it's been half an hour, and this is why people are frustrated with our bus system. You need to have the empathy and the understanding before you can make a change.
Preguntas? A ver, por aquí.
Hello. Considering that we have a higher level of criminality here in Santo Domingo, how do you suggest we encourage citizens to ride a bike or to use public transportation?
That's a really valid question and something that we don't have. We have that issue, but not nearly on the level that you do. I would say there a few things. I think the planning of your system and your stations, I mean, there's engineering solutions to some of that. Lighting, you have to light them up. Police presence helps as well. I think there's a whole other side to this conversation in the safety and the criminality that we're not able to address here today, unfortunately. That's a valid barrier to some of the things we've been talking about. So I can't say I have the solution, but I definitely empathize with the issue you have.
Just adding something here. The more people in the street, the safer the street. If nobody walks, it's not safe. If everybody's walking, you're going to be safer walking. So break the barriers. Also, there's a lot of limitation that is psychological. We are afraid. Let's not be afraid. Let's go out to the street and take over the street.
Una foto. Sí, buenas. Una pequeña inquietud o dos preguntas. Yo diría que en qué tiempo y en qué nos cogerían no hacer nosotros, bueno, como en Puerto Rico. Yo viví en Puerto Rico mucho tiempo, que la guagua aquí, allá le dicen la ama y aquí la onza, tiene un carril para transitar el transporte público. Es decir, lo que van, si nosotros vamos bajando hacia la derecha, ellas vienen a la izquierda. Es decir, yo voy hacia abajo, ellas vienen hacia arriba, un carril especialmente para el transporte público. No.
I'm going to need a translation, please.
Sí, no comprendo.
Well, I guess what he wants to say is that there are some parallels between our public government ruled transportation circuit and that of Puerto Rico. And era como una observación que usted quería hacer.
Sí, que en qué tiempo más o menos aquí se podría implementar eso también, como que el transporte público tenga como...
Un carril en contravía, okay. He observed that in Puerto Rico there are some lanes dedicated to buses that would go on the way against the laneway. But here we have been evaluating such options and have not rendered good results in the modeling. So that's pretty much an answer in advance to his observation. Nosotros hemos estado evaluando alternativas de ese tipo con las personas de AMED y del Intran, y el modelaje de esas opciones en el software y en las estimaciones que se hacen empíricas no ha dado muy buenos resultados. La gente se confunde, los conductores de pronto no van a observar todo el tiempo esas reglas que son más de contrato social que de límites físicos en la ciudad. Un poco en el contexto dominicano, quizá hay que esperar un poquito más, hay que tener un poco más de sección de vía. Santo Domingo tiene menos de un 18% de huella de calle y aceras, una ciudad que crece sosteniblemente. De acuerdo a la data que tenemos de Habitat UN, necesita por lo menos un 30% de huella de calles y aceras, 30-35%. Barcelona, Nueva York y otras ciudades modelo tienen esa holgura. We have that kind of problem right now. I was just wondering also, would you please address this other dimension of walkability that has to do with the geographic expansion of the transport system, not so much with the conditions on the sidewalks and the streets as you walk and as you pass through the streets, but how walkable is the city in terms of how near you have distances between stations? Do you have anything to say about that? I'm pretty much interested in that.
Sure. Our local bus lines, the bus stops are spaced about a quarter mile. We have one rail line, and the stops are spaced much farther, probably about a mile, maybe 2 miles. The walkability is decent. I would say right now about 50% of our streets have sidewalks, so that's not a very good metric. We're trying to get that much higher. We're trying to focus our resources around transit stops so that more people are able to access transit. In Austin, people are willing to walk a quarter mile, maybe a half mile. If the street is shaded, it's very, very hot in Austin, just like it is here. So if there's shade, if there's nice things to look at, if it's safe, people are willing to walk about a half a mile.
Interesting. Thank you. ¿Alguna pregunta, observación, comentario?
Please.
Yo no estoy de acuerdo, yo estoy de acuerdo, me gusta, no me gusta. Yo fui a una conferencia una vez con el calculista estructural del Taipei 101, del edificio Taipei 101. Okay. Y alguien aquí del público, no de UNIBE, de otro escenario, se paró y dijo, yo no estoy de acuerdo con usted. O sea que disentir es un derecho, aunque no siempre es informado, pero es un derecho. y está perfecto. En algún momento alguien puede no estar de acuerdo y es muy legítimo. ¿Te iba a decir algo?
Sí, ellos hablaban ahorita de lo que es soluciones y viajes inteligentes. Es un
Sí.
programa que ellos utilizan en toda parte del mundo. Entonces, más o menos, ¿cómo te digo? ¿Cómo definen esa parte de ellos? ¿Qué son soluciones o viajes inteligentes para ellos?
Would you please summarize the notion of smart trips again, just in very short words? How come it is smart? In which sense? He's wondering.
So a program like Smart Trips is filling a gap in knowledge and trying to complement the millions of dollars that have been spent on infrastructure. So I don't know if this will translate, but there's a phrase we use where we say, if you build it, they will not necessarily come.
Sure.
So our public transit system, I would say, is poorly utilized compared to other cities in the United States. And there are many, many reasons for that. But one way we as a city can fill that gap is to provide the low-cost education and outreach to say, I am so glad we have great engineers that are providing the bicycle infrastructure and getting there on the ground, providing the sidewalks and adding more buses. And I'm here on my side complementing that and providing the education needed to get everyone onto the system.
One sentence.
¿Le tradujeron?
Was that one?
Okay. Alguien por aquí tenía una mano, no sé si... Bueno, la persona que está detrás de ti, que levantaste la mano ahora, tenía la mano levantada, luego entonces vas tú. So you are ready to sing that song we talked about before? No, not yet. Like by the end of the... no?
Bueno, Cristian Fernández, estudiante de aquí de Univer. Mi pregunta básicamente va por el camino de mi compañera hace un rato, que ha preguntado sobre la criminalidad. El transporte aquí no solamente tiene el problema de la percepción de seguridad que tienen las personas en cuanto a utilizar sus calles, ya sea para caminar, que es lo más básico, pero también está el problema de que el control del transporte público directamente no recae sobre las autoridades, podríamos considerarlo así, sino que siempre se dan muchos choques sindicales y ese tipo de cosas, que son problemas que países desarrollados como Estados Unidos, la ciudad de Austin, no tiene directamente. Entonces, mi pregunta va más por el camino de qué nosotros podemos aprender y qué nosotros podemos comenzar a tomar de programas de ese tipo, que realistamente no podemos aplicarlo en nuestro país, sino por dónde nosotros podemos comenzar tomándolo de ejemplo. Porque nosotros no podemos imaginarnos que nosotros podemos tomar algo del estilo y aplicarlo aquí, sino que nosotros debemos comenzar a encaminarnos hacia eso.
That's actually interesting. How would you apply smart trips to the Dominican context, given the difference in criminality rates and in culture also? What would a smart solution look like here, based on what you already deal with?
So, what I heard from talking to several folks over the past few days is that smart trips, like public transit, is still viewed as a class divide.
Yeah.
And things like a class divide is a problem of public perception. So I do see that smart trips is a very valuable educational tool in that, I mean, just like Texas, it's such a car culture, and we all have grown up saying, once I turn 16 or once I have enough money to buy a car, this is the first thing I'm going to do. So the education and breaking down that public perception is a really important tool to utilize and not just ignore. The great thing about a program like Smart Trips is that it can very easily be catered to, you know, an individual neighborhood in Austin is very different in the south versus the north. So we cater it very specifically. So I wouldn't know exactly what the programmatic elements to change are, but I know that it can be changed to take your local context into consideration. I mean, the question about criminality is a very difficult one to answer, and I think it goes way beyond the mobility topic, but it permeates all types of topics within the city government. So, I mean, I could imagine if we were to implement a Smart Trips program in a specific neighborhood, that maybe the metro is expanding, is to actually organize neighborhood groups. Like, when we go into a neighborhood, we find local neighborhood groups to volunteer with us. So whether they all go to the church nearby, or there's an elementary school nearby where the parents are involved, we make sure everyone is involved to help us create a program that fits the needs. So that could be a really important piece that I think you pointed out of having eyes on the street. If you have the actual neighbors involved in the program and volunteering and maybe organizing the trips, it becomes a safer environment when everyone's invested in it.
Okay. ¿Te tradujeron? Sí, ok. Una pregunta más. Vamos a ver, allá.
Good evening. My name is Willie Jr. and I'm an architecture student from UNFU, the university. My question goes to Ana Martin. Basically, you show all amazing projects, that you show us amazing projects that goes in a better way to the pedestrian. But I want to know, how was that point that? In that point that you can, like, how was the point that you show people how to act in that way? Because collaboration, I think, is an important part of an amazing project as you show us. But I want to know, how was that project, how was that part in the collaboration of people? How was the collaboration of the people in that project?
Well, we do this a lot when we change our streets. So as engineers and as planners, we come up with what we think might work. We roll it out on an engineering drawing, roll plot. We go out to the neighborhood and we say, this is what we think might work. What do you think? A lot of what we hear is, we need to be able to park our car. We need access for businesses. Things like that. So whenever possible, we try to keep space for parking, keep space for deliveries, things like that. Our streets are so big that there's often room for all of those elements. And then it's just organizing the street space, designating it so that you as a user, whether you're in your car, whether you're a bus driver or a biker, you know where you can be and you feel secure in that space. So there's an enforcement element to it as well that I think would have to come along with any sort of project like that here in Santo Domingo. And then I will also say, we also follow up with the community, and our community is extremely vocal. They will tell us when they don't like something, and we often make adjustments to these projects afterwards to accommodate different needs. We don't always get it right on the first try. We're willing to go back and make changes.
Okay, thank you.
Excelente. El profesor Gustavo Valdés nos honra con una observación. Perdón, Cristóbal Valdés.
No, lo que quería es hacer algún comentario con la cuestión de seguridad. Realmente hay un problema de seguridad, pero si nosotros vemos el metro y el uso del metro, que es masivo, ahí no pasa nada o pasa muy poca cosa. O sea, nosotros, como casi todos los países latinoamericanos, después que nos metemos en el subsuelo, nos portamos parece que bien, porque lo mismo pasa en México, lo mismo pasa en Venezuela, etc. Entonces, lo que pasa en la parte de arriba es un problema de desorganización. O sea, nadie en su, a menos no, o sea, por la necesidad tiene que utilizar el transporte público existente sumamente desorganizado, muy peligroso y muy complicado. O sea, usted le pregunta a cualquier persona de estrato medio bajo y de estrato bajo y tratará de buscar un automóvil para resolver el problema de él y de su familia de transporte, porque montarse, ir, primero usted no sabe cuándo sale ni cuándo llega, y después aquello es una incomodidad y un riesgo todos los días de ir y venir. Entonces yo creo que en términos de que si se pudiera organizar, hoy leí en el periódico que van a poner 4 o 5 estaciones de transbordo interurbano en las afueras de la ciudad, que resolvería muchos de los problemas, pero si logramos organizar, como parece que la cosa va caminando, aunque no tengamos mucho más información, yo creo que parte de esa organización nos lleva a una mayor seguridad y a una mejor forma de cómo organizar el hecho de hacer más seguros esos lugares.
Bien, luego de esta breve introducción, vamos a comenzar nuestra charla realmente. ¿Qué? ¿Perdón? Ah, sí. Well, Professor Cristóbal Valdés was he was stating that as a cultural issue we have here, it's like a pattern, a cultural pattern. We tend to behave once we are underground. When we take the subway, we make lines, we respect social contract to some extent. And that's very interesting. He was making the parallel between Dominican Republic, Mexico, Venezuela. It's like a tendency, statistically significant, to somehow engage into social contract once we are into these very controlled environments, as opposed to what happens over the surface of the city, where we have this perception that we have this freedom to be, to some extent, unorganized. Yo no sé si eso resume un poco lo que... Okay. La charla de hoy, yo no sé si los profesores le dijeron que es hasta las 4 de la mañana y va a comenzar ahora. Está bien. Bueno, esa alegría me da mucho ánimo porque de pronto da pie para que comencemos realmente con todo. Realmente quiero de nuevo agradecerle a la arquitecta Ana Martin y a la arquitecta Thien Chang. Solange tiene algunas cosas que decirnos y luego entonces damos por concluida la velada. Gracias por su participación.
Gracias. Como decía Jesús, estamos apenas empezando, se pueden acomodar. Los que están aquí se pueden recostar un poquito mejor porque esto ahora apenas empieza. Y la verdad es que apenas empieza porque para muchos de nosotros es un primer aliento para empezar el cambio y hacer las cosas mejor cada vez. O sea que ahí estamos completamente de acuerdo que acabamos de empezar. Queremos dar las gracias a todos ustedes por estar presentes, por compartir este momento. Queremos dar las gracias al Ayuntamiento del Distrito Nacional, a ICMA. Queremos darles gracias a nuestra universidad que nos cede este espacio y a todos ustedes que son parte de la misma. Por supuesto, queremos dar las gracias a una persona, un héroe sin capa que está allá atrás, a Melissa Vargas. Gracias, Melissa, por la traducción. Un aplauso para Melissa. Gracias, Alexander, por el video también. Esta actividad está siendo grabada para el disfrute de todos nosotros más adelante. Y, por supuesto, no podemos dejar de despedir con un fuerte aplauso a nuestras conferencistas de la noche de hoy, señora Thien Chang y Ana Martin. Thank you very much for being with us.